Okay, this was sent to me. And from what I understand, it's people basically squatting and taking their ancestral land back.
The thing I like about this neighborhood is every single house seems to have its own little bit of charm. Just being a single woman trying to compete with a lot of these couples, I lost out on about 13 houses before.
Well, yeah, of course that makes sense. Losing out on the houses, it's harsh because everything is going to have to be done twice as hard because there's two people working against you. Yeah, that's a very difficult one.
I came across this one. When I walked in the door, I was like, this is my house. So
Cute.
whatever I can do to get it, I'm gonna get it. You guys, I'm not even kidding. This is the literal SWAT team that was called.
Shanetta Little was finalizing construction plans on her first home when a
Holy shit. A SWAT team was brought in to most likely take away people that maybe squatted? Let's see.
stranger changed the locks and told her that the house she bought was actually his.
They call themselves Moors. They basically say that they have ancestral rights due to a lot of treaties and
Blah, blah,
tribunal
blah.
law, that they have rights to the land here.
What you do, you go and you get yourself a legal gun, you kick down that door with a few people, and you shove that gun in their face and go, "Get the fuck out of my house! This is my place and my property right!" And they will either get out or, die trying.
So you buy this place, you have this amazing vision for it, and all of a sudden you
Looks
get
nice.
a letter.
Yes. I got 2 letters, actually. The first one I got from Jaleel Hugh L. There were like seals and fingerprints and signatures basically saying that my home was on someone else's ancestral lands. I ignored it the first time and they sent me another letter saying because I didn't respond, now we own this house.
What?
The third time was
I should do that. I should send out things. You are my own ancestral land. Now, if you have not answered, I own the house. I wonder what legal binding rights that is, huh?
basically when all shit hit the fan. So they sawed off the locks, put their own locks on. He's now occupying the home.
How do they get him out of the house?
Oh, they busted the door down and they basically dragged him out. And it was really scary. Like, I applied for a gun license. I got pepper
See,
spray,
girl.
knives.
Wow.
Get
It
the
was
click,
really,
click.
really traumatizing.
Police officer
Oh,
still
for fuck's sake, don't use the traumatizing card. It's really traumatizing. No, it was scary, yes. You got a gun, yes. Now, next time somebody goes in, you have a gun. How's that trauma? Jesus Christ. Blah, blah, blah.
reeling from a deadly attack. 3 officers were shot and killed.
The manhunt is on for this man, a career criminal considered very armed and very dangerous.
In recent years, isolated and random incidents of violence, fraud, burglary, and squatting committed by Moorish extremists have put Moors on the radar of law enforcement nationwide.
A Newark home taken over by an alleged extremist group that not only changed the locks, but actually claimed ownership over the property.
The man who occupied Shanetta's home was never charged and still maintains the land belongs to him. We did our best to speak with him, but he demanded to be paid. So that interview didn't happen. But we did find a video he posted about the incident online.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. This is a man of God. I don't know what he is. But the truth is, these type of people are fucking nut jobs. You can only get them out with violence, honestly.
This is actually a claim on not the house itself. It's actually the land. It just so happened that the house is on top of it. If she did not come up so belligerent and so angry and so aggressive,
What?
we would have sat her down, explained to her what's going on.
What you mean?
So, what is
She
going
wasn't
on?
aggressive at all.
Historically, Moors are renowned as an incredibly powerful and influential group of North Africans.
Used to
They
be.
once controlled an empire that
Once.
included modern-day West Sahara, Algeria, Tunisia, and Spain. But many Moors believed that the Moroccan Empire expanded all the way to the Americas, making
course.
all black people ultimately indigenous to an America that predates the United States altogether.
Oh, their stupidity knows no bounds. Look, they didn't own a quarter of the world. They just They just happen to be exactly where they are right now. Always. That's always how they work. Fucking
Together.
stupid.
For most of the 1 million Moors across America today, that's just their origin story. Many attend one of the official Moorish science temples and peacefully study their own Quran. But for others, it's more than just a religion.
Violence.
Their indigenous identity means land rights, citizenship, and living under U.S. laws are all called into question.
Why is that not the first thing you want to do? Realign yourself with your ancestry. Realign yourself with the great God Allah. Realign yourself with your birthright and your culture.
So I want you to write this down so that for anyone who thinks they can challenge.
Do you know what they look like? And you know I can say this because I'm also a brown dude. He looks like Apu. You know when he had that little thing on? When he was being the servant of Aladdin? He looks like Apu.
This information is available, and all scholars know this stuff.
Look up and be more enlightened to what's out there.
There are many independent,
They said not
nonviolent
being
Moorish
enlightened
organizations
themselves.
across the U.S. who believe they were colonized and that state laws shouldn't apply to them. One of them is the Rise of the Moors.
Disruptive and combative. They're all members of the Rise of the Moors, an anti-government sovereign citizen movement.
This is a group that does not believe
Jesus.
it needs to follow the law.
Jaleesa and her husband are founding members of this Rhode Island-based group who believe that the state doesn't have jurisdiction over them.
You all have been called sovereign. You all have been called anti-government.
I'm sure that the second they get sick and they live in a welfare country, if they do, I'm not saying these ones in America in particular, but let's say they live in Spain or something, it is a welfare country, and they get sick and they go, I have cancer. And they'll be like, oh no, you guys have to help me. It's on you to help me. I live in Spain. But the second it's something that isn't really necessarily in their benefit, it's like, we're not Spanish, we're Moorish, we shouldn't be able to follow your rules. So it's one rule for you and one rule for me. It's fucking always.
Do any of those terms ring true?
No. I think people like a good villain, and I think that it's really a lack of understanding of what we're doing.
What are you doing?
What am I being arrested for?
Last summer, 11 members, including Jaleesa's husband Jamal, were arrested while en route to a militia training and camping trip. None of them could produce government driver's licenses or gun permits for their weapons.
Help me understand
Well, there you go.
You all's relationship with the United States of America.
We, Moors, don't have anything to do with United States government because we don't belong. We belong.
So if you don't belong, move. Like, it's that fucking simple. Listen, I'm not a big particular fan of nationalism, but I understand when you live in someone's country or you live in someone's house, you're following their rules or said country's rules. It's just how it works. It's always going to be like that. If I say you're not allowed to wear your shoes inside my house, what does that mean? It means don't fucking run around with muddy shoes.
Belong to the Moroccan Empire. We want to have our own separate nation.
So move to
our own separate
Morocco.
Government, hospitals,
Move to
towns,
Morocco.
schools, daycares,
Morocco.
our own police. You know, we're getting our rights violated left and right. Streets constantly. Black History Month. What do they show on TV or in school? It's always so-called black people getting the hose, getting mauled by dogs. It's nothing uplifting.
That's
at
true.
all. It's never
She's completely right
look
there.
at what you were, look at what you can be. It's always like,
Yeah, there's loads of empires, and there's Ethiopia. That was the only country in Africa that never got colonized because they beat the Italians. And like, there's a loads of cool things about Africa, and a lot of empires, like I think it's the Assyrian, it's called. And you had during the Punic Wars, there was Europe against Africa. So there's been large and incredibly beautiful nations and empires in Africa. However, they are showing mostly negatives. But what does that have to do with this fucking shit? Like, if you are Moroccan and you're a Moor and you believe that you should have your own land and stuff, you do. It's called Morocco.
this is what you are and this is what you're always going to continue to be. It's a form of propaganda and brainwashing.
That's true.
According to Jaleesa, the perfect storm of civil unrest, police violence, and systemic racism are attracting new members, people who are sick and tired of the status quo and frustrated at the treatment of people who look like them.
What is it exactly that you all want?
Freedom, to not be oppressed, to not have life so hard to live, to just come together and establish our actual own government and our own everything.
So where's that land gonna be? Like, what's the logistics of this ideology? Are they going to put this land just straight in the heart of America and just be a different country? What happens then when Russia starts putting money into you guys, and then, oh yeah, do you want a nuclear weapon base? And suddenly they have a nuclear weapon base in the middle of America. It's just not going to happen. Like, there's zero chance. Yeah, nah. You probably have to buy a large island or something and, I don't know, make your own country. I don't know, honestly, how you could do that. Unless you have a lot of power, and it doesn't seem like you have a lot of power.
Until then, Moors and non-Moors live side by side, sharing taxpayer-funded public resources. But in an effort to increase economic mobility and establish precedent for autonomy, Moorish nationals are leveraging lawsuits to further their agenda. These goals are enough to classify them as anti-government by the likes of the Anti-Defamation League and law enforcement.
This stuff represents a couple years of just collecting and gathering, and you can be knee-deep in paperwork quickly.
Called paper terrorism by those on the receiving end, Moorish nationals overwhelm court systems with retaliatory lawsuits, liens, and filings, all creating a paperwork hellscape for government officials,
Smart,
most of whom
actually
have no idea what they're reading.
Lieutenant Flowers, yeah? Alzo.
Good to see you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me.
Corey Flowers has been a cop for more than 22 years and has spent time infiltrating extremist groups and training government employees on how to handle them.
All right, good morning, ladies and gents. Good morning. Moorish sovereigns are very heavy into all manner of fraud. A lot of times very complex fraud, cool. Like mortgage schemes, postage stamp fraud, credit card fraud, wire fraud, a lot of bank fraud.
So they're doing all sorts of fraud because they don't believe they work under the same system, yet they get taxpayer benefits. It's very difficult to agree with them, and it's very difficult to be on their side, even though I can empathize. I don't sympathize with them. I can empathize with certain things about them. It's still too much. You're still fucking the country you're living in, and you're still complaining that you don't have your own country yet. But you're saying you're the Moors of the Moroccan Empire. You have Morocco. Go to Morocco.
Paper terrorism, you guys heard of this? You can use physical legal documentation, whether it's putting a lien against somebody else's property, filing a lawsuit against somebody else, in order to intimidate them, particularly in their professional capacity, which definitely creates stress, right? The idea that some folks you guys deal with can impact your livelihood, that's an intimidating thing.
Flowers himself has been on the receiving end of this tactic, which most often targets law enforcement and court personnel.
I'm wondering if you can walk me through what this is.
Yeah, so this is a lawsuit against 2 former police chiefs, a couple mayors, me, in this fella's opinion. These are all the people that he believes wronged him legally. So this is a lawsuit for $4 billion or...
$4 billion?
With a B, yeah.
Have you seen an increase in...
I mean, how did he get to the conclusion of $4 billion? This is a lot of fucking money. If you had $4 billion, I'm sure you could, I'm not sure if you can, but let's say you could maybe start a small country at least like a startup funding, like a capital uprising for a low country. So I don't quite understand, if you're suing like 6 people, how are they ever going to be able to pay $4 billion? I've not yet understood the American system when it comes to lawsuits and how the monetary system works, because you see loads of big numbers, but are they ever paid? I don't know.
And the number of people claiming to be sovereign?
Yeah, there's definitely been an increase. Anytime you have an election where power changes, and especially if party changes, you have effectively half of the country that gets into a panic to varying degrees. Panic like that will often drive folks to these movements.
What threat do these folks pose?
When you have a subgroup that just believes the rules don't apply to them at all, like that creates chaos.
It does create chaos for sure, because if there's 1 million people that don't believe the rules apply to them, and they are doing whatever they want to do because there's no real repercussion, and they're all living in a very small area, how are you going to jail 1 million people? How are you going to put 1 million people in some sort of confinement? Like, not only that's going to cost a lot of money as well. So not only are they getting taxpayer money, but they're also sitting there and talking about how they are going to be able to do whatever they want. And then they post wire fraud, and they do the post stamp fraud, and then they send out lawsuits upon lawsuits upon lawsuits. It's just putting a big strain on a system that's already way overstrained.
There are now almost 3 million messages to the government to recognize Moors as a federally autonomous body of indigenous Americans.
Wow, that's a lot, honestly.
But that's not what most Moors want. And distinguishing themselves from that ideology has been a priority for the original Moorish Science Temple of America.
Ooh, see,
There are
that's
Moors
what we
across
want to
the
see.
country. We know of groups in Rhode Island and New Jersey, but neither of those groups are part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, which are like the OG Moorish Americans. We came here to their headquarters to speak to the Supreme Grand Sheik to see if he thinks these splinter groups are legit and if their practices are in line with their Moorish teachings.
The Moorish Science Temple of America was founded in 1913 by Noble Drew Ali, who taught that all black people were stripped of their national identity and Islamic faith through racist oppression. At its peak in the 1920s, it boasted upwards to 35,000 members who aspired to uplift a fallen humanity. We've come to Sunday school to learn from the 8th generation successor of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the Supreme Grand Sheik.
This is really cool to see that there's even conflict within the Moorish community. And of course, yeah, you're going to say, oh, but there's conflict within their country. Yes, it is conflict within the country as well. But I'm saying that these people who are saying that they are not a part of America, and they're saying they're not a part of the country, they're saying they want their own place, also have opposition within their own religion. And people apparently that's been there for longer. So, this is interesting.
Welcome to today's Sunday School. I'm going to ask some questions first. Is a man white? Is a man black?
Oh, his man is man.
Is not a color, period. Nationality was, is, and will always be what? The order of the day.
What are the principles that...
Honestly, that's a really, really good teaching. The order of the day, as in, there's another country one day that will take over a certain country that we live in, maybe. And then we are Assyrian, or we are Nigerian now, or we are German, or we are whatever. So the order of the... Yeah, actually, that's quite a nice way of putting it. It's just the order of the day. But we are, at the same time, you have to look at it from a perspective that you, as a human being, will have massive differences of opinion due to your environment. And if your environment is giving you German or Russian or French, you will act different. So yes, is a human one of these things? No, not necessarily. But if you are within a certain country, but if you are within a certain region, you will definitely have traits from those regions. So it will make a difference as well.
The Moorish Science Temple of America stand for?
So there's love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. However, we do have fundamental principles, and one of them is obedience to law. We're not encouraging members or anyone else to be involved in anything unlawful and disgraceful.
When the public sees Moors, it seems like they just lump you all into one group.
Yeah,
but there are groups of Moors that don't comport themselves in the way that you all do. How do you reconcile that?
They're robbers and schemers. Moorish Americans don't do those kind of things, and it's written in our laws. We don't take people's property, and we're not anti-American. This is not an Afrocentric organization. And for those who try to make it that way, they will pay the price.
As the Moorish Science Temple of
There's 3.2 million people, 3.2 million people who signed the petition. So are half of them just white liberal people, or what's going on? Like, are they all Moorish Americans that are straying from his path?
Of America, do you feel any sense of obligation to check those fringe groups?
Oh yeah, we check them all the time. All the time.
What does that look like?
It looks like you being caught with your hand in the cookie jar. And we see you with your hand in the cookie jar. And you still lie that that's not your hand. But they don't have to be told that they're wrong as much as the law is telling them that they're wrong. Because whether you have affairs on or not, if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law, and you're gonna get yours.
But as he said earlier, he said that people are just a flavor of the day. At the same time, the law is also just a flavor of the day. So he's saying they're wrong based on the flavor of the day. I'm not sure. I don't...
All rise, please.
Your Honor, the next matter before the court is Commonwealth versus Jamal Latimer, docket 21361. Bring him in.
He looks like
Jamal
a
has
schemer,
been
doesn't he?
incarcerated since last summer's roadside incident. If convicted on all 11 indictments, mostly weapons charges, he could be locked up for decades. Jaleesa continues to attend each of Jamal's hearings. We were able to speak to him through a recorded line after his most recent pretrial hearing, where he remained steadfast in his mission.
This is a collect call from an incarcerated individual at the Middlesex County Billerica House of Corrections.
Hello? Hey, Jamal, how you doing?
I'm all right, how are you?
I'm good. What is the ultimate goal of the rise of the Moors?
What's next is to continue to try to do my best to educate my people as to what's going on and possible remedies for a lot of these problems. We're essentially victims of genocide.
Again, big problem. Again and again and again and again and again and again and again. They get stuck in the victim mentality. We are victims of genocide. We are victims of this. We are victims of oppression. We are victims of A, B, C, D, E, N, F, and G. But you know what? There's never anybody saying that we are empowered. We are strong. We can do all these things. We don't have to think about the past 500 years. Why? Why is it that every single fucking time there is a victim of oppression, there's a victim of genocide, victim this and victim that? Get the fuck out of here. Just, make a good community. Fuck.
And it's throughout the legal system of the United States, which makes it a crime against humanity. It affects every aspect of our lives. It affects our education. It affects our ability to do business. It affects our quality of life. I can't think of anything more important than trying to change that.
Dude, you're in jail for weapons possession because you were going to a militia group to learn how to shoot and kill people. You are not a victim of anything. You're the fucking oppressor. You are not a victim. And yeah, if you're saying, I am a victim, therefore I'm going to do these things, maybe you can see yourself as that. But how many victims are pulling up a bunch of fucking AKs or Mavericks and going to a camp, learning how to do guerrilla warfare? Jesus.